Welcome to the Military Spouse Careers and Business Podcast, your source for in-depth information all about the job application, negotiation, transitioning, education processes, and the unique challenges and overcoming of those challenges experienced by military spouses. You'll hear inspiring stories from military spouses all over the world who have found a way to make their career work for them and not take a back seat. Thanks so much for tuning in. Hey everybody, it's time for another episode of the Military Spouse Careers and Business Podcast, and I have another excellent guest for you here today to talk about her experience with her own career, and hopefully there are some great takeaways for you that you can apply to your own experience on the job hunt or transitioning careers. So thank you so much for being here. Would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself for the audience?
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. My name is Deidre McVay-Schu. I've been an Air Force spouse for almost 4 years now. My husband and I met in college and we were really good friends. And it was just so amazing to start a relationship right at the start, pretty much at the start of his military career, and see him grow and be able to share those adventures with him as a military spouse. So a little bit about my career specifically. My background is in political science. I studied that in undergraduate school with legal and international studies minors. I then pursued a master's degree in public administration. And previous, I worked for a nonprofit museum called the National Museum of Nuclear Science and History in Albuquerque. And that museum, I was specifically in charge of their membership program and also assisted in fundraising initiatives, and even led their silent auction operations for their annual Einstein Gala, which raised money for their STEM programming. My husband just recently got transferred to Patrick Space Force Base, and I'm currently in the job hunt right now, either in the nonprofit field, public affairs, just trying to see where the dice fall right now. But a lot of doors have opened for me in those industries because of networking. And I'm so excited to be able to talk about networking and how it's a quintessential skill to have in order to build those relationships that can help you throughout many facets of your life, especially finding employment.
Yeah, I'm excited to chat about this as well because I think it's an often misunderstood concept, or networking means different things to different people. Sometimes it has a negative connotation for certain people. So before we dive into all of that, let's walk back to when you first kind of realized or made the commitment to being a military spouse. Did you have concerns about what this might mean for your career at that point in time?
Honestly, I did not. I loved my spouse so much. He was my best friend and still is my best friend. And that I was just really excited to be with him. And I didn't really, pay attention to a lot of the nuances that and challenges that military spouses would face until those situations came to me. But my husband is just a supportive person and a loving person that we just rode through them together. And that's just what I enjoy about him. And I also have grown my community as well with other military spouses helping me acclimate and be able to understand that culture.
Perfect. So let's talk about networking. To you, what does that word mean in the context of a military spouse in the career market, either looking to re-enter the career market after a long time or transition jobs? What does it mean to you to say that someone is networking?
I like to use it in a broad term because networking can be used for anyone at any stage of their career, whether they're just starting out or they have a really stable career and they want to continue that momentum or even change it. What I say networking is building long-lasting connections that will help you through any challenge or help you in general. So when I say that, you're really building a friendship. It's another way of making friends. It's a different type of friendship. It's a friendship that is more on the professional side, yes. But those friendships, you really don't change your personality because everyone in the career sectors want you to be yourself anyway. and they want to hire you as yourself and not you as someone else. So really, it's translating skills that you have to build friendships and being yourself. It's those same skills that you can use in a professional setting as well, whether you want to change your career or even grow your professional network for the career you already have. It's something I actually even learned in undergraduate school. I was in a sorority, now it is a co-ed society. And one of the biggest things that was important to us, other than our schooling and our grades, was recruiting new members. But the most important thing that a lot of people were able to compliment me on was the fact that I was just myself, and I was just my genuine self, and invited people to sit with a group of us at the lunch table, walked with them to class, showed them how to get to different places. I remember this one time we had a Greek symposium, and there was a girl who later joined my co-ed society. She was lost. She didn't know where to go. And and it was raining, and I had an umbrella, and I was like, hey, let's just go together. I'm heading to the same place. Let's walk together. And she still remembers that to this very day. And she's now an alumni because of that fact that you're building those connections that will sustain and last a lifetime. Those skills I later was able to tailor into a more professional setting, especially in working in Albuquerque and making the connections that I did that are even helping me while I'm in Florida, while I'm in Brevard County.
I love everything you said there. And I think where networking gets confusing for anyone on the career path, but military spouses especially, there are some aspects of it that are really easy, really simple actions to take, right? So one example might be connecting with someone on LinkedIn. And then there's more strategic things that are on the other end of the spectrum, like specifically connecting with someone about an internship or shadowing them at their job or asking them to be your mentor or even asking for a connection at their company. It's that in-between spot that is so hard because I think a lot of spouses are worried about, well, is someone going to interpret this the wrong way? You know, people, especially people that I'm networking with, may be really busy. So can you talk a little bit about how you take a relationship from just a first time meeting or even connection online, and what is next after that part?
So I'm actually currently doing this right now within the networks that I'm making within Brevard County. The one thing that I always try to do is initiate that communication. So if a person that's networking with me says, hey, here's this person and their email address, introduce yourself. I go on ahead and do that because that shows tenacity and respect for the person who's helping you because you're taking the initiative to be able to communicate. That was in another extension of that is if someone sent you a LinkedIn friend request, and this happened to me as well, saying, hey, I heard about you from this primary contact. I'd love to connect with you. Respond to that message. Definitely take that time to respond to that message right when you get it or as soon as you're available right after, because that shows respect as well, that you're respecting that other person's time to be able to build that conversation with them. And that actually was a compliment that one of my connections gave me was I wasn't really sure about you, but when you responded right then to try to schedule some time with me to introduce ourselves through Zoom, I knew that you would be the perfect person to help out. And this contact was right. You are definitely who you say you are. So even if it's just virtual introduction, you're bringing out your self-personality by your work ethic, by your response time. I'm one that does not want to leave a notification unread. That's just my thing. And I'm the one that if I see a notification, I take care of it quick, whether it's a response or anything to that effect. So, and because of that, that is something that people respect me for. So it's really bringing yourself and your work ethic into these communications as well. And that will definitely help you be able to solidify those connections, because they can be able to see, without meeting you in person physically, they can be able to see who you are and how you work as a person, to be able to help build those stronger connections and even spread the connections like wildfire. This particular gentleman that I'm mentioning, he has connected me with so many different people from so many different industries within Brevard County, all just because of the fact that he loved how quick I communicate. And I check in on, and that's another component of it too. Always check in with your connections that you make. Give them updates. You don't have to update them every single day, but if something big's happened, if you got a job interview, if you contacted their contact they told you about, let them know. That way they know from physical evidence that you are taking what they're saying seriously, and that you are really reaching out to people and being able to create those connections even further, because that's what's going to help build your network and make those chains in the network so much stronger. Because as you're showing yourself, that your personality, your work ethic, that's how it's help solidify who you are and who you know, because they will be able to see right through the mirror that you're seeing of yourself and can see the same exact thing.
The Military Spouse Careers and Business Podcast is sponsored by Operation Freelance, a 501c3 teaching military spouses, caregivers, and veterans how to break into freelance work with our unique 90-day certification program. You'll get a community, support from a freelance mentor, review of all of your materials, including your pitch and work proposals and samples, all for free if you're accepted into our 90-day program, which currently runs twice per year. For more information and to get on the short list when we open applications, please visit www.operationfreelance.org. So it sounds like you use networking a lot as you're preparing to move to a new place. So let's say that a connection or someone that you've been referred to because of someone else says yes to the meeting. How are you running these initial connection meetings so that it feels really authentic? Are you bringing up the specific thing of, hey, I'm moving to this area soon? And then how are you kind of couching that in the overall conversation with this new connection?
Absolutely. So these connections actually came right when I stepped into Brevard County. So what I did was I reiterated the initial conversation that was had through email or LinkedIn. And it always started with introducing myself, introducing what my career interests are. And then the conversation leads to, what can they do to help me? What is it that they can do to help you? What I always try to balance a fine line. And when I say that, I try to say that I just want to be able to get to know my new community and be able to hopefully find employment in my industry that I'm interested in, but also I'm flexible as well. So I'm fortunate enough that my career background is flexible enough to enter into the public sector, nonprofits, private sector, or even public sector, federal sector as well. So I can jump into many different facets of career, but that's just me though.
Right.
But when I say this for everyone else, I can say that definitely just speak to what you're experiencing. Be straight up and be honest, because these people are reaching out to you because they want to help. A lot of these people were so excited to help a military spouse because they're thankful for our service alongside their spouse themselves. So it's okay to be transparent and say, hey, I'm looking to start out my career. I don't know where I'm going, but these are my interests. Do you know people who are in these fields that I can be able to shadow? And those are okay too. Myself, I'm just a little bit more established into what I want to do and where I want to see my career go. But you can have those same conversations with your network as well and say, hey, I'm not quite sure, but here's my interest. Do you know of any organizations I can volunteer for, or even shadow to mentor even? And a lot of the connections that I made certainly are very involved in Brevard County community themselves, to where even if I wasn't so career focused, I could be able to still find ways to be involved in the community and get to know my new community as well. So it's definitely making sure that you lead the conversation with transparency and honesty in what you want to do and where you want this relationship to go. But also don't be so, I want you to help me and be all too direct about it. Just be yourself. That's the whole secret sauce. If I'm gonna, there are some McDonald's additives in here. That's the secret sauce. It's just be yourself, be your authentic self. And that's what people, no matter what you're doing in your career, that's who they want, is you, your authentic self. And those will solidify those relationships even more.
Mm-hmm. I'm so glad that you brought this up, because I think some people go about networking in the wrong way and it has left a bad taste in their mouth as a result. So they will be too direct and say, hey, do you know anyone who can give me a job? Or what do you think about your current company? I'm thinking of applying there and I wonder if you could put in a good word for me. That is kind of like jumping the gun, right? It is a little too much too soon. So if you can approach it as a genuine connection event, this person feels less like you're trying to come on too hard to them and more open to exploring the possibilities, because it might not even be about your career, right? Maybe they have recommendations for other things in the community. Oh, I see on your profile that you volunteer with a lot of animal care organizations. There are some great animal care organizations here in the new city you're moving to, and I happen to know someone who runs one of them. Would you like the connection, right? So it could be about other things than your career, and you won't know that until you have the chance to talk to them. So view these connection opportunities as authentically as possible and don't try to set it up too soon. So how do you end your conversations with these connections? Are you asking them to connect you to someone else? Are you just kind of leaving it at thank you for your time?
It really just depends on the conversation. To me, I believe conversations can be fluidic and you can be able to take them in many different directions. The conversations that I've had with the people who I've connected with have been anywhere from let's schedule another meeting to let's meet in person as safely as we can due to the pandemic, or let me follow up with some people and I can electronically introduce you via email and we can build more of a conversation from there. So it's a lot of different things that could happen, but really I kind of let that last bit be kind of controlled by the person I'm networking with, because they have the connection. They have the knowledge more so than myself. So that part, I sit back and I listen and I'm very attentive. And I try to understand what it is, what's that next step? Where do they want to go? Because again, they're the primary connection. They have their feet in the ground to know more about the community than myself. So I kind of let them take the lead. But then again, that's just my personality. In that sense, where if I'm new to an area, I kind of ride alongside, shadow and observe what's around me. And then when I'm ready, I can move forward to be able to kind of say, this is where I want to go. And that's when those relationships later further develop. And those take time. Some relationships go really fast. And it's really just a matter of how you develop that relationship with that person and how that relationship grows, so to speak.
Yeah. This has been such helpful advice. Is there any other advice or tips that you would like to share with our audience about networking before we go?
Absolutely. Just a couple of things.
Yeah.
My first set of advice that I would give is just never be afraid to network. Think of networking at its simplest core as building strong and lasting relationships, similarly to the level of a friendship. Think of it in that mindset first before you think of it as more of a opportunistic relationship where this person has the opportunity to give you something in return in the sense of assistance, of mentorship, of development. Look at this in more of a friendship aspect, because friendships last for years because of the foundation that you build upon it of trust, sincerity, transparency, dedication. Think of it in that way. And my second and final thing that I would say about networking is it can be as simple as connecting with your squadron's key spouse or other spouses at your duty base. It can be as simple as connecting with a friend of a friend or someone in your industry of interest.
Yeah. It all starts somewhere. So don't feel like you have to jump into networking feet first. Start with some connections that may be a little bit more comfortable for you. And then as you get more confident doing it, you can expand your network. Well, you've given us some amazing tips to think about how to do networking the right way. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. And I'm so excited to be here. And I hope that this message definitely helps my fellow military spouses out there.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the podcast. Our show is sponsored by Operation Freelance, a 501c3 nonprofit that helps military spouses, veterans, and caregivers break into freelance work. To learn more about that, visit www.operationfreelance.org. If you're looking to access show notes and more information about the guests you heard on today's show, please visit betterbizacademy.com.